And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Monday, February 3rd. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down an 8-game DraftKings slate. We got 10 games on the FanDuel side. And yesterday, I thought that we were just going to have a normal show. And then I woke up and found out that Luka Doncic had been traded. The Los Angeles Lakers. And then yesterday, we just assumed we'd wake up and have a normal show. And then we got the news that De'Aaron Fox is now a Spur. Zach LaVine is now teaming back up again with DeMar DeRozan, this time on the Kings. Fascinating. Fascinating stuff. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Wow. The NBA is fun. They're taking a bite out of the deadline day for me. I don't appreciate all of this stuff going down prior to Thursday, but whatever. We'll talk about what we can. De'Aaron Fox now on his way to San Antonio. Zach LaVine on his way to Sacramento. Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Huerter on their way to Chicago. Bunch of draft picks going out as well. For the Spurs side, I like the deal. I don't think they gave up anything that I would be super worried about. The Minnesota first in 2031. That's a fun pick. Don't hate it. Like, the Charlotte pick's not real. San Antonio's pick in 2027 is essentially not real. So I like it for San Antonio. I have no problem at all with that. They still have everything still in the cupboard. They didn't have to get rid of Castle, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. They've got a bunch of picks left over, still some valuable ones. I mean, they're currently projected for 2 lottery picks this year. So, love it for the Spurs side. I think the Kings made out like bandits. I think you can make a credible argument that they're just as good as they were before the trade, and they got a bunch of assets. Now, you could even say they got a little bit worse, but you can make that argument. Chicago, I hate it. I don't. Yes, you're going to save some salary. Yes, you are picking up your own first-round pick this year. You shouldn't have had to worry about that at all. So I think the Bulls definitely got the short end of the stick. I like it for San Antonio. I like it for Sacramento. What do we got going on here? Let's see. Josh, what's your take on Perkins saying the Mavs fleeced the Lakers? Well, I don't care at all about what Perk says. Not somebody I go to for my news and analysis. John C., yes, I did. I immediately listened to Zach Lowe, who dropped 15 minutes of audio and video last night. Made me very happy. Very happy. I miss that man in my life. Let's see what else we have. No, S&P, they just never win a trade. But for this time, actually, I think that the Kings, they definitely didn't lose this trade. I would argue the Kings won the trade the most. Why was Utah involved? It has to do with salary matching. Lakers could only take back so much salary, so someone else had to take on Jalen Hood-Schifino. Jimmy Butler's slowly but surely running out of places to go play, and value is getting calibrated in a very different way. The Lakers got worse with that trade, though. They better not be finished. I mean, they definitely did not get worse. There's no way to potentially... You can't look at it like that. That's not possible. They did not get worse. They got better. Very clearly got better. But I also agree that they are not done. They are not done. John C. says, how much better is Fox than Levine? Can't be that much. I mean, I think you can make a credible argument that they're the same. I think the more likely scenario is you would give a slight nod to Fox. Yeah, this one definitely was the best Kings trade in a very, very long time. Like, some of the picks are phony, but you also replenish with Levine. Chicago is just a sad, 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 sad organization. Shark Killer, Mark Cuban, not involved with the Dallas Mavericks any longer, so gonna be tough to justify that one. Yeah, Chicago got their own pick back, which was pretty dumb. It was pretty dumb. They prioritized the wrong thing. They were never going to lose that pick right now, so they should have just continued to tank and hope for the best. Replenishing with Levine sounds like drinking piss to rehydrate after running a marathon. Daryl, like the taste. I'm hoping that the Lakers, well, I shouldn't say hoping, because I don't cheer for the Lakers. I usually don't like them, but that's besides the point. I figure they're going to make a play at Clint Capella, Miles Turner, Walker Kessler, Jakob Pertl. I feel like they're going to go that direction and try and take a swing because they need a center. Jackson Hayes is not the answer. That I'm pretty confident in. So I think they're going to have to go out and get a big. And I really want to know who that's going to end up being. Steven, they've got a lot that they can move. Can be Vandy's contract, Rui, Dorian Finney-Smith if you need to. Technically Maxi Kleba, I believe, can still be moved on as long as he's not aggregated. Gabe Vincent. But yeah, they're going to have to do something. And because the Mavericks fumbled the trade so poorly, the Lakers actually can do something else. I still can't get over how bad the Mavericks screwed this up. I can't get over it. It's incredible. It's incredible. For Luka Doncic to have been traded and that be the return is insane. Yeah, Shark Killer, he's very clearly not in control. It's not even a conversation. Mark Cuban is unequivocally not operating the Dallas Mavericks. I can't believe we're getting Luka on the Lakers. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Thank you, John. I think it's time for me to break down this slate. Because I could go for another 20 minutes on Luka and the Mavs ruining their chances of anything and being just next level dumb. But I feel like I got that out of my system yesterday. Did I find it odd that LeBron felt the need to publicly say that he intends to stay in LA? No, not at all. Mavs didn't want to give a supermax to a player who is lazy and doesn't play defense. What's wrong with that? Well, the lazy guy that doesn't play defense carried them to a Western Conference Finals and a Finals appearance, and he's 25 years old, and he's a 5-time first-team All-NBA player, and he's one of the 3 best trade assets in the league. You give that guy that contract right now, they could cut his Achilles tendon on his leg right now, and every team in the league would give him a 5-year supermax. David Brown says the Mavs were just really, really high on AD, I guess. Oh, they were really, really high, all right. When was the last time a star player who is lazy and doesn't play defense won a finals, huh? If you think that the reason the Dallas Mavericks didn't beat the Boston Celtics last year was just because Luka had too many cervezas, it might just be because Boston was significantly better. Yeah, Luka was walking back on defense in the finals because he dragged the team to the finals. It took him strapping the team to him to do that. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. That's an impossible thing. If Luka Doncic is a guy that can't get the supermax, then no team, like, you shouldn't be a basketball team. You can't be an NBA team and not want to be in, and not think that Luka Doncic deserves that money. You could not want to be in the Luka Doncic business. I could understand that. But this is not a conversation about money. Everyone pays him every cent of that deal 1,000,000 times out of 1,000,000. I think people are looking at the name Luka and feeling that Lakers got better. Without rim protection, they're going to lose a lot more games than they were winning with AD. Guys, if we took a step back 3 days ago and I said, who's better, Luka Doncic or Anthony Davis? Every single person is going to say Luka Doncic. The Lakers got better. The Mavs got worse. The Lakers' odds improved. The Mavs' odds regressed. It's because Luka Doncic is a better basketball player than Anthony Davis. And when you trade for Luka Doncic, you get better. Yes, their defense got worse. Their offense just got way better. Way better. It's just how this works. Somehow they didn't make a trade, and then Anthony Davis became a better basketball player than Luka Doncic. All righty. We got 15 minutes in. 15 minutes in. That's enough trade talk. Incredible. Incredible. Luka Doncic, man. Confirmed good basketball player. Josh, Luka not better than AD. You need to put that coffee down. Guys. Luka Doncic has had like basically the greatest start to an NBA career in NBA history. I don't even know how we do this. How do we jump through these hoops just trying to let everybody know we have no idea what we're talking about? It's incredible. It's truly incredible. He's like the exact guy everybody should like. Just smacks Phoenix by 60 after they talk all their shit. Drags the team to the Western Conference Finals that doesn't deserve to be there. Drags this team to the finals. Daniel Gafford, rookie center, PJ Washington. Like, come on, man. The dude is insane. The dude's insane. All right, water's done. Let's get into it. Washington Wizards, 4-point underdogs in Charlotte, 216.5 total. Now for this one, Alex Sarr out once again. So we are getting Joval starting, and he's getting 10% ownership on the DraftKings side, 10% ownership on the FanDuel side. Jordan Poole, only other dude getting over 10% on both sites. They're the only two guys that I think are interesting for Washington. Poole's at 6,700, continues to play, north of 30 minutes in competitive matchups. 10% optimal, 24% chance of 43 fantasy points. I think it's very easy to want to get to Poole in this spot against the Hornets. I think it's very easy to want to get to 10% of Joval in this spot against the Hornets. Steven, it would be great if this game were just like a 6:30 p.m. showdown. It would be awesome. I would very much prefer to not have the Wizards and Hornets game be a part of anything we're doing. Alrighty. If you want anybody else here, like, there's a non-zero chance that Rashawn Holmes could be an interesting option backing up Joval at 3,100. I don't think it's going to matter given the size of the slate, but it's just something to keep in mind. For the rest of these guys, I don't have much interest in Koulibaly or Kuzma, George, Kispert. Brogdon came back in their most recent game, so I just don't see much here for Washington. They are one of the lower owned teams, I guess. I mean, they're more owned than their Charlotte counterparts, but not all that owned here in Washington. So the Hornets side might be a problem. No LaMelo, no Cody Martin, no Brandon Miller, no Josh Okogie. He's out with a hamstring strain now. And Vasily Micic is questionable. So right now, we only have 10% ownership on the DraftKings side coming into Mark Williams. And I agree with that number. looks solid, 8,400, can play as many minutes as possible. No one's stopping him from doing anything. We don't have any real ownership, though, coming into the rest of the Hornets, and that looks off, potentially. If we don't get Micic in, and we get, I don't know, KJ Simpson starting, or Isaiah Wong starting, we're going to get some value here for Charlotte if Micic happens to be out. Now, if he's in, you're not really looking to too much here. I don't think Bridges looks that good at 9K. You know, Josh Green's a terrible per minute performer. Nick Smith is fine, but, 4,900, just a guy. Matchup helps. It's always good to face the Wizards, but I think if you're looking at this game, you're looking at Mark Williams, and that's about it. But if Micic ends up out, whoever starts for him is going to become a pretty interesting play, especially if it ends up being Isaiah Wong. Oh, boy. You guys are dropping some truly terrible takes into chat. I can't even believe it. John C says not Simpson. So yeah, assuming KJ Simpson starts, he will look good-ish. But I already have him with 25 minutes, and he's already 4,400. Whereas Isaiah Wong, I only have at 10 minutes. He's 3,200, and they're similar per minute guys. So I think Wong would soak up a bigger chunk of minutes if this happens. And like Simpson doesn't have as many to gain, and he's already $1,200 more expensive. Why can't Luka get slander? Because he doesn't deserve any slander. Luka gets no slander because he's amazing. Rookie of the year, 4th in MVP, NBA all NBA first team, 6th in NBA or MVP, all NBA first team, 5th in MVP, all NBA first team, 8th in MVP, all NBA first team, 3rd in MVP, all NBA first team. Why would he get any slander? If the problem is he's literally not in shape half the time, and literally doesn't try on defense half the time, that's still pretty good, because everybody's saying that he's one of the 5 best players on the planet when he's doing that. We need to stop thinking that someone could play all out offensively and carry a team and play all out defensively and carry a team at the same time. That's not how this works. There you go, Frank. Yeah. He gets no flack because he's awesome. Let's go to Atlanta. 3.5 point dogs in Detroit. 235 total. In terms of injuries for the Hawks, Bogdanovich is not with the team. Jalen Johnson, obviously out. That's all we have to really worry about. Clint Capella is still out. Probably not on the team by the end of the week. 20% ownership coming into DeAndre Hunter. He is 5,800. Small forward, power forward eligible. Makes sense to see that ownership. Hunter plays 30 minutes a night without fail. No problem clicking that name. Spot looks fine. Ownership will come down. Now the rest of these guys, unowned, which is interesting because the total here is great. 235 total is certainly workable. Should Trae Young be more than 0% owned? Yeah, for sure. Should Dyson Daniels be more than 2% owned? Yeah, probably. Vit Krejci? Yeah. Looks okay. Okongwu at 6,600? Meh. If I'm playing anybody here, it's Hunter and Trae Young and probably nothing else. There's probably nothing else here. But I think Trae Young's a little underrepresented because we're going to talk about Cade on the opposite side, and they're going to be in similar salary tiers. Man, I'm so sad for some people right now. It's breaking my heart. Breaking my heart. Sad. Yeah, strike a loot. Not a lot of Trae right now. Shark Killer, he's really good, man. You're selling him short. You just compared him to Lonzo Ball. He's on the greatest start of any career. It's crazy to call him Lonzo Ball, man. Let's go to Detroit. That's not how you type that in. Detroit Pistons. Same team they always are. Now they're on the back-to-back, so in theory, somebody could be out. 15% ownership to Jalen Duren at 6,400, 10% to Cade, 5% to Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, Asar Thompson. And that's how it should be. Yeah, you get the Duren game where he plays the minutes. You want to be out there with him at 6,400. 1.1 fantasy points per minute. Pace up spot here for the Pistons against the Hawks. Yeah, Cade looks solid. 10% owned at 10-3. I don't think he looks all that different than Trae Young on the opposite side, though. They both look pretty good to me. But there's no major stands here. These teams haven't been all that owned. We're also going to get to Houston and the Knicks next, where we don't get much ownership. Then we'll finally get into San Antonio. But yeah, if I'm ranking Detroit, we've got Cade Cunningham here, number 1. I would say Tim Hardaway 2, Jalen Duren 3, Tobias Harris 4, Malik Beasley 5. Honestly, Malik Beasley 5% owned, 5,100 shooting guard. He might be the most under-owned guy here for the Pistons. Little sneaky. Little sneaky. All right. This game is very unappealing. Houston Rockets, 5.5 point dogs in New York, 223 total. Now, it might become a little bit more appealing because Alperen Sengun is questionable. Fred VanVleet is out. Jabari Smith is still out. So as of right now, there's no ownership coming into Houston. 3% to Tari Eason, 5% to Cam Whitmore. That's it. That's it. Tari Eason getting a little bit of love on FanDuel. However, if Alperen Sengun ends up out, we're going to either get increased playing time for Steven Adams, which has happened in the recent games. If we look at Houston right now, Steven Adams played 25 minutes 2 days ago, played 23 the game before that with no Sengun. So we might be able to go to Steven Adams here. Potentially, Jeff Green looks a little bit more interesting today. Flat min, 3K, power forward center. Now, he has not really played much, but that was with Fred VanVleet being in the game. Maybe things redistribute a little bit. So we want to pay attention to that injury news. If Şengün is in, there's nothing here. Most optimal guy I have is Aaron Holiday. And I don't even know if he's going to, I gave him 26 minutes. I don't even know if he'll play 26 minutes. But we'll see if Aaron Holiday gets the start, whether they go to Tari Eason. They can go a couple different directions here for starter if Şengün is back. But we need that starting lineup more than anything. Problem is, this is one of the least appealing teams that we have today. Now, Knicks side. Tricky one, because we're going to have some news to wait on. OG Anunoby's questionable. Josh Hart is questionable. There's no ownership coming into the Knicks right now. 7% to Towns. 3% to Josh Hart. Nothing else. Nothing's higher than that 7% to Towns. So we're going to need these Q tags because obviously getting extra minutes somewhere for the Knicks will create something. I would not be surprised at all if OG Anunoby isn't playing today, at which point we are going to see increased minutes for Precious Achiuwa, who ended up playing 29 minutes after Anunoby got dinged up last time out. We've got Miles McBride, who's played 24, 22, and 23 minutes over their last 3 games, so he's starting to see a couple extra minutes. We got to wait on Hart. We got to wait on Anunoby. It feels like there's going to be no Anunoby. At which point, 4K McBride becomes a little bit better of a value option. Precious Achiuwa, you give him 26 minutes, maybe. 0.87. 2262 projection at 5,100. Yeah, he'd be okay. Landry Shamet is the flat minimum shooting guard, small forward eligible guy. So he could find himself in some extra minutes. Maybe you get them both out. Now, I don't expect that, but Josh Hart has been questionable for a couple straight days, so we want to keep our eye on it. Slim, yes, I did see the injury. Again, there is no scenario where this trade makes sense for the Mavericks currently. You do not trade a guy on 5 running all NBA first teams and think you got better. That is not a thing. Yes, Troll God, all of the projections handle trades. All right, let's get to game number 4. San Antonio Spurs, slightly different team today because they don't have Trey Jones any longer or City Sissoko. But they do play today. 5.5 point underdogs in Memphis. 240 total. Not expecting to be seeing De'Aaron Fox here today. So we're going to have to wait on that one. So slightly shorthanded the San Antonio Spurs. Victor Wembanyama is questionable for today with an illness. So clearly keep your eye on that one. If he's not in, that does change up San Antonio quite a bit. And we are going to see a lot of value. For right now, we're seeing 20% ownership to Devin Vassell, 6K shooting guard, small forward. And then we're seeing about 10% ownership to Wemby, to Paul, to Keldon Johnson, and to Jeremy Sohan. So now, if Wemby is out, we're going to either Charles Bassey, who picked up 27 minutes with Wemby out last time out. Mamu could be a guy in those scenarios. Sohan could be a guy in those scenarios. We would need to see it. But for right now, the assumption is that we have Wemby in. And I like Wemby. Seems like a completely reasonable 10 to 15%er. 9% optimal, 33% boom at 63 fantasy points. But these guys look like a lot of 10% options. I've got Wemby at 9% optimal, Vassell at 13, Castle at 8, Paul at 10, Keldon at 8, and Jeremy Sohan at 9. These guys are basically just matching their ownership. Bassey isn't listed there on your charts. Well, that's because I don't think that Charles Bassey is going to play if Victor Wembanyama plays. Castle cannot be a combo guard like Drew or Derek White. That would take a very sizable change in his offensive ability to expect him to ever be the combo. He's really bad on offense. S&P makes a good point here, talking about the way the Mavs are going to close. Look, Derek Lively's really good. And the weirdest part of this is that they're taking a guy that should absolutely just be their starting center. I don't know what that, like, I don't know why you would want to block Lively. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. Oh, yeah, John, that I agree with, because he can't shoot to save his life. Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, AD at the 4, PJ Washington at the 3. That seems like a great way to do that. Yikes. I mean, honestly, if you're trading for AD in this scenario, you should trade Derek Lively. Like, that's very clear. Like, if you're Dallas and you want to try to improve your team and you're insisting on playing AD at the 4 and closing with him at the 5, then you should trade Derek Lively, because that's something that can actually bring you back real assets. But, like, obviously that's dumb to do too. Why would you? But you put yourself in that scenario. So, anyway, congratulations, Dallas. Great work. Grizzlies. So, Grizzlies are on the back-to-back, and we have no idea if Desmond Bane's playing. We have no idea if Ja Morant is playing. We have no idea what the rest of this bench will look like. I don't have these guys grading out all that well right now, but there's no way that we could talk about Memphis on this back-to-back, because we need the status of Ja and Bane. And if we don't have that status, everything else doesn't matter. So for Memphis, we're just going to basically skip over these guys. And then we're going to get to the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are 4.5-point dogs in Minnesota, 220 total. Now, the Kings are getting some ownership, and that should not be surprising at all. We're getting a little under 10 to Domantas Sabonis, right at 10 for Malik Monk, right at 20 for DeMar DeRozan and Keegan Murray, and 47% ownership for Keon Ellis. Clearly deserves it. I assume he's starting. Kevin Huerter, not here for this one, obviously. De'Aaron Fox, not here for this one. I went 30 minutes to Ellis. He's 3,500, shooting guard only, 23% optimal, 32% chance of 27 fantasy points. He's 50% owned, and he should be. This is an absolute no-brainer. One of the best plays, if not the best play of the day, is going to be Keon Ellis today for the Kings. Have to do it. I think DeRozan and Murray do look like the two next best options. I think them both being at 20% ownership makes sense. I prefer Murray a little bit to DeRozan, but I could go either way here. I think Sabonis looks okay. $9,800, still a pretty big price tag. Definitely not the best matchup for him either. When you have other size out there, it does get real. And then, Monk, 10%. Yeah. Point guard, shooting guard eligibility looks fine. 7,200 looks like a nice price. Could explore the studio space a little bit more with no Fox around. But the priority rankings here are definitely Keon Ellis 1, Murray and DeRozan 2 and 3. RC player, is Monk going to be the starting point guard moving forward, or are they going to try to keep him coming off the bench? Well, he's been starting for weeks, so I think they're going to keep him in the starting lineup. But yes, he is the starting point guard of the team. But he has been starting for a very long time now. Let's see. Malik Monk has been starting since December 1st, so 2 full months. Alrighty. The Mavs starting 5 is absolutely not fire. It was fire before they made the trade. I don't know how you could think it's fire right now. Can't say it's fire right now. Keon Ellis season. This is not how I thought he was going to get freed, but he'll be right back to his bench role shortly. Because Zach LaVine, come on down. Now, the Minnesota side has an opportunity to be kind of wild today. Dante DiVincenzo out. Julius Randle out. Anthony Edwards questionable. Naz Reid questionable. What in the world is going to happen here for Minnesota if we get some of these dudes out? 25% ownership coming in right now to Mike Conley. Makes sense to me. Looks like very clearly the best Minnesota guy in this moment. 4,600, point guard only. He's playing 30 minutes a night. They're already missing 2 guys. They could at least be missing 1 more, if not 2 more. So this is Mike Conley season today. Has to be. Now, we're not getting any real ownership to anybody else. 10% to Gobert. But this has an opportunity to make Rob Dillingham a thing today. This has the opportunity to potentially make Luka Garza a thing today. We could, Jaden McDaniels kind of just looks decent no matter what. Nickeil Alexander-Walker might play 36 minutes depending on how this news breaks. Jalen Clark at 3,200 has been falling into a bunch of minutes now with these guys hurt. We need to pay very close attention to Minnesota because if 1 or 2 of Anthony Edwards or Naz Reid are out, we're going to have a lot of the Minnesota Timberwolves. As it stands right now, Mike Conley is your priority. And then you're probably trying to get 5 to 10% of Edwards, McDaniels, Gobert, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Naz Reid if he's in. But if we lose one of these guys, then we could start talking about the deeper bench options for the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a fun spot to think about because we've already got the value on Sacramento for them shipping out Fox and Herter. And then on the Minnesota side, the potential of Edwards and Reid already missing Julius Randle. It's good. It's good. I don't think the T-Wolves are going to move Randle for LaMelo. That's going to be a tough one. It's going to take a little bit more than that. All right, guys, hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. Let's get to game number 6. That's going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. 10-point dogs in Oklahoma City, 232 total. Milwaukee, kind of impossible to talk about. They're on a back-to-back. We don't really have their info. No idea what's going on with Bobby Portis. Could he just be sitting out until after the trade deadline? It's possible. Chris Middleton, is he going to play the back-to-back? He just did Is he going to do it again? I don't know. There's no ownership, though, coming into Milwaukee because they're 10-point dogs and they're taking on the Thunder. And this is a really bad spot. So you're getting 6% ownership to Damian Lillard. You're getting 8% ownership to Giannis. And that's about right. You tell me those guys are in the 5 to 10% range? That makes sense. You tell me that Brook Lopez should be 5 to 10% owned? Sure, that makes sense. I don't know how you want to get to much Minnesota. We went from a day where Giannis looked incredible as a pay-up option to just not the primary pay-up option. And that's what happens when you face the Oklahoma City Thunder. Is he rosterable? Of course. Of course. He's 11-8. He's power forward center eligible. You're looking for 67.5 fantasy points. You could do that in his sleep. We know what we're getting out of Giannis. But if we're just grading him on this scale, I'm not all that excited about getting to anything here for Milwaukee. They're one of the lowest owned teams on the slate. And I'd like to keep them that way. Now, the OKC side, we're getting 20% ownership to Jalen Williams without the Y. John, you're asking the question wrong. Jimmy Butler leaks news that he won't sign an extension with the Warriors to make himself look better. The reason he won't sign an extension with Golden State is because Golden State doesn't want to pay him what Jimmy Butler wants. So Jimmy Butler reports it as, I refuse to re-sign with them, but he's refusing to re-sign because the deal isn't what he wants. They won't give him enough money, obviously. Anyway, Q-tag Jalen Williams without the Y, Q-tag Cason Wallace, Q-tag Alex Caruso. Now, Caruso's pulling 15% ownership, 3,600 point guard small forward. 20% ownership coming into Jalen Williams without that Y, 8,100 power forward eligible. Yeah, if he's in, he probably should be 15 to 20% owned. Isaiah Hartenstein at 7,400, center only, 10% owned. Makes some sense to me. I think Cason Wallace is probably under-owned at 4% if he's in. I think SGA at 11K, point guard only, is under-owned in this spot at 6%. If I can get to one of the guys in this game, give me SGA over Dame on the opposite side, that's for sure. Can only sign one, SGA or Luka for a Supermax. I mean, it's got to be SGA now, but it's close. But it's got to be SGA now. Chris G, yeah, I'm doing a trade deadline show. Now, if Jalen Williams happens to be out, Milwaukee side of this game starts to look a little bit better. 2, I think Isaiah Hartenstein ends up looking a little bit better. Shea obviously gets better. And then I think we start talking about someone like Lou Dort at 4,900, shooting guard, small forward. His minutes will firm up. And then Aaron Wiggins, small forward, power forward, 5,300. It's kind of already priced up. So it's not the best in the world there. I think Isaiah Joe, if any of these guys really end up out, I think Isaiah Joe is going to look like a pretty decent guy off the bench. Joe has been playing some increased minutes as of late. Picked up 24 last time out with no Jalen Williams. 29 the game before that. That is when Caruso got dinged up. And then 25 in the game before that with no Dort. So if we lose one of those guys, we'll probably be paying a little bit more attention to Isaiah Joe. But I like Shea as an ownership pivot for sure. Game number 7. New Orleans Pelicans. Man, these guys. What kind of hex is on this team? For real. Just so snake bit. So for those of you that aren't aware, DeJounte Murray, torn Achilles, going to be done for all of this year and the better part of next year, surely. We also have a questionable tag on Daniel Tice and Jordan Hawkins. And we are getting 50% ownership to Jose Alvarado, 4,800, point guard only. Ownership makes sense to me. I think the expectation is going to be that Jose Alvarado steps into the starting lineup in replace of DeJounte Murray, plays somewhere around 30 minutes, and he's the best per minute guy that you're going to find today. I have absolutely no problem getting to Alvarado. He's in my top 5. I would argue that I prefer Keon Ellis, but I don't want to downplay Alvarado. He's great value right now. He's great value. No one else is, though. I don't see anything here for Trey Murphy, for CJ, for Hawkins, for Zion. Now, maybe if Tice and Hawkins are out, then we could get a little bit of Brandon Boston or something. But I don't really see anything here. I don't want Zion at 8,500 right now. I'm still nervous about the minutes. This is in Denver, so you're getting pace down at elevation. I mean, Zion's going to be sucking wind in the Mile High City. This is not a place for him. But Jose Alvarado, starting in place of DeJounte Murray, playing 30 minutes. Yeah, you just don't need much out of a $4,800 salary. The only players ahead of Luka I think a GM would give a supermax deal would be Wemby and SGA. Or am I missing anyone? Jokic, Tatum, Edwards probably at this point. I think people would just feel safer with. But Jason Tatum for sure. You feel more comfortable doing it. No, not Cade. Not Cade. Let's look at those Denver Nuggets because this is a team that's getting owned. This is your most owned team on the day. And it's because there is no Russell Westbrook for this game. Westbrook is going to be out here with a left hamstring strain. Also, Peyton Watson out with a right knee sprain. So you are getting 25% ownership to Jamal Murray, 44% ownership to Nikola Jokic, 20 to MPJ, 10 to Christian Brown, and 50 to Aaron Gordon, with another 8 coming into Julian Strawther. It makes sense to me. Jokic is the clearer star here, while Aaron Gordon might be getting more ownership. 44% owned, $12,300 8-game slate Jokic getting that 40. You need 70 out of him. I want every bit of it. He's going to smash this Pelicans team. Clear top pay-up option. No doubt about it, number one dude. Not even close. Aaron Gordon is also that dude. He could play 30-plus minutes today. They're missing 2 rotation pieces, so those minutes aren't going anywhere. He's power forward center eligible. He was 23% optimal, 33% boom of 32 fantasy points. It's a no-brainer. You're getting as much Aaron Gordon as you can. Now, I think that Jamal Murray is a hair over-owned. I think Michael Porter Jr. is a hair over-owned. I think that Brown, Porter, and Murray should all be in that 15 range. But Murray's getting 25, Porter's getting 20, Brown's getting 10. I think it's a little too extreme. But the key here is Denver's the best team. No one looks as good as Denver. Highest optimal rate, highest boom rate. It's not even close. Highest total, second highest total on the slate behind San Antonio and Memphis. This is the one. This is the one. Got to do Aaron Gordon, guys. Doesn't matter what he's been doing at all. There is too much quality here for Denver. 9 o'clock start, too, so it's even better for late swaps. S&P makes a very good point. These guys are going to look a lot better with Russell Westbrook off the floor. Now, before we get to the final game of this DraftKings slate, we got to talk about the deal we have going on right now. And that is going to be SB75, 75% off your first payment of Portfolio EV. You could grab a month right now for this Super Bowl for 75% off. We are running this deal all the way through Super Bowl Sunday. If you want to take a market-based approach to beating the books, get expected win rate, expected value, parlay builders, odds boost calculators, shop lines across all the sports books or pick'em sites, advanced data, anything you could think of here. It's the best product on the planet right now in the sports betting space. If you're not checking out all the testimonials, I know that usually looks ridiculous, but this is the way to do it. You want steady dubs across the board? Portfolio EV is the way to do it. SB75 is the promo code. Check the link in the description when signing up. What am I watching? What am I watching? Craziness. Alrighty, final game of the DraftKings slate. The Indiana Pacers, 6.5-point favorites in Utah, 239 total. Now, the Pacers are getting absolutely no love today. Single-digit ownership on both sites. They don't have anybody relevant on the injury report for today. I got Pascal Siakam to 12% optimal, so slightly higher than 10%. That's all I see here. You want to play Halliburton, it's fine. You can play 5 to 10%, no issue. You want to play Siakam or Turner, I think, or Andrew Nembhard for that matter. You could play 5 to 10% of these guys. But do any of them look like a guy that you immediately want to get to and lock into a lineup? I don't think the answer is yes. I don't see that here. I don't have a single priority. I'm just happy to have some of the 4 best players on the Pacers. But I don't see anything that we should go crazy for. And Utah looks even worse. 10% owned, John Collins. We don't have injury news. We actually have everybody that could be available as available today. So we've got their normal team. Mavs certainly got better with this trade. Easy for real basketball analysts to see. Real basketball analyst consensus. Clearly, Lakers got better. Dallas did not get better. Betting markets show that Dallas did not get better. Betting markets show that the Lakers got better. It's incredible how people will just ignore that. That's just nuts. If real basketball analyst means Kendrick Perkins, you are on the wrong side, champ. You are on the wrong side if you're on the side with Kendrick Perkins. Just know that. Just know that. Anyway, John Collins does look like he should be 10% owned. But so does Lauri Markkanen, and so does Isaiah Collier. I got Collier for 30 minutes. He's 5,100 point guard, shooting guard eligible. He's a 0.85 guy. Like, why is he only 2% owned here against Indy? I'm not sure, but I like it. Why is Markkanen only 7K, small forward, power forward, and unowned? He's playing 32 minutes a night. You need 44 fantasy points out of Markkanen? Why can't they just beat the Jazz here? It's 10%. 10% optimal. 1% owned. I like Markkanen and I like Isaiah Collier as pivots. And I think Collins is fine to have 10% up. Not a big Walker Kessler guy here. Not a big Colin Sexton guy here. Not a big Keontae George guy here. But you want to tell me that Collier and Markkanen are under-owned? I can get behind that. Coach Chris, that's fair. Jazz coach does do some weird shit. Can't disagree. But Markkanen, last 4 games that he's played, 33, 31, 36, 32. He's out there. Is he really a 0% owned guy on this kind of slate in a late swap situation? No. I got my eye there. Same for Collier. Those 30 minutes. Why not? John Collins' last game as a Jazz. I mean, John Collins has been thinking he's going to get traded on the deadline every year for his entire career, so he's a guy that's probably learned how to not hold his breath in that scenario. I promise you, the Mavs absolutely wanted to pay a Supermax contract. Every team in the league is willing to pay a Supermax contract to Luka Doncic. And I know someone now is going to say, well, clearly they didn't because they traded Luka Doncic. Yeah, we need to figure out why first. All right, final 2 games. These are FanDuel only. And they're a little tricky. Orlando Magic, 2.5-point dogs in Golden State, 211 total. I should also make sure that I don't have a show backing up after me. Is there an NFL show today? That would be bad. Nope, just basketball. Deeper dive at 5, live before lock at 6, myself and Greg on playback at 7. So for Orlando, we are waiting on the status of Jalen Suggs. He is questionable for this one. I would expect him to be limited in some way. As of right now, if Suggs is in, you are seeing no ownership coming in to the Magic. 5% to Paolo Banchero, 8% to Franz Wagner. Those guys look like 10%ers. And the rest of the team looks like guys you should not click on. But be aware, Jalen Suggs, not likely to be stepping into a ton of minutes if they get to that point. Now, for the Golden State side, Golden State is full stop unowned. Draymond Green probable for this one. 4% to Wiggins is the highest ownership of anybody on the Warriors on FanDuel. And that's about how I see it. I had Wiggins at 7% optimal, Curry at 6%. This Orlando Golden State game is awful. It is the lowest total game of every game that is being played today. I have it at the lowest pace. You should skip it from a fantasy perspective. However, it's not much better in Phoenix and Portland. 9% ownership to Devin Booker, 5% ownership to Kevin Durant. Everybody that's normally available is available. I did get Booker and Durant over 10% optimal. I do prefer Durant to Booker, even though Booker's getting a little bit more ownership. I would not be clicking the names of anybody else on the Phoenix Suns. And then finally, on the Portland side, Q-Tag, Dwop Reith, Ryan Rupert, Jabari Walker, and Time Lord. None of that matters. You're getting 10% ownership to Tumani Kamara, 5% to Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant. I think Kamara, Simons, and Grant are all 10%ers. I think you could take a flyer on Shaedon Sharpe, but I don't think that this looks all that good. They're okay. The Portland side is okay. But this is the second slowest game of the slate. And that kind of stands out to me as maybe not that appealing. Well, we made it. We did 15 minutes on the trades with some interjections throughout the rest of the show. And now we're here with 8 games down on the DraftKings side, 10 games down on the FanDuel side. And we're going to get on out of here because we'll have the deeper dive later today, breaking down every single game once again with all of our future news. So be ready for it, everybody. Be ready for it. let's not forget as we leave, the Dallas Mavericks made a gigantic mistake. Luka Doncic is better than Anthony Davis. And the NBA is really, really fun. So have fun, everybody. We're back tomorrow.